The World Center of Speed, Speed Week 2026, qualifying for the Daytona 500, presented by Toyota. Bit of a chilly evening here in Northeast Florida, but chilly means fast. And this place is built for speed, and we're about to find out who the two fastest drivers in Daytona are that are going to start on the front row for Sunday's 500. But also within this qualifying, we've got 8 drivers, Clint, that they don't know their fate, but they can determine it tonight.
Yeah, you want to talk about pressure, folks. The pressure's on these 8 drivers. 2 of these drivers are going to qualify in and take all of that pressure out of the scenario. You do not want to be one of those 8 drivers and have to race your way into the Daytona 500 in the duels tomorrow night. Let's get it out of the way tonight. Take that pressure off, Kevin.
We had an hour of practice this morning, and we learned, I don't know, Kevin, absolutely nothing. I've never gone into a qualifying session at Daytona with so many questions of who's going to be quick and who's going to win the pole.
Yeah, well, we had so many cars that got a draft. We had cars pulling in front of each other. We had 2 cars that didn't even practice. So we have a lot of unknowns that we will answer here in this qualifying session. But from a driver standpoint, you want a fast car. You want to be up in the front of this race. And to Clint's point, the safe spot tonight is to qualify in one of those first 2 positions to be able to be on the front row.
All right, they're getting ready to qualify for the front row for the Daytona 500 and to lock in 2 of the open cars into the field for the Great American Race. Welcome back to the NASCAR Cup Series Daytona 500 qualifying, presented by Toyota. 45 cars will take time tonight. And the 8 drivers who are not locked into the Daytona 500, 2 of those spots will be decided tonight, and they will all be among the first 25 cars to take time. Those 25 cars are all teams that were not in the top 20 in owner points last year. The top 20 will run in the final 20 positions, and within those 2 groups, there was a random draw for when they would go out. So the top 10 fastest overall advance to the final round to set the front row for the Daytona 500.
Well, we talk about pressure. You heard me say that, and the pressure's right here. The first 2 cars out. Corey Heim, this is a car that has to qualify in, and this is one of them that I have my eye on for sure, Kevin.
Yeah, and I think as we go through these first couple cars, obviously we're going to learn about the open qualifying positions, but the biggest thing that we're going to learn is what's the pace going to be tonight? What is the lap time that we actually need to start shooting for? Because we didn't really learn that in practice.
Corey Heim, last year's Craftsman Truck Series champion. In his truck racing career, he's won 1 out of every 4 starts. But one thing he's never done is start a Daytona 500. He is hoping this will be his first of 12 scheduled starts this season, with Booty Barker as crew chief.
Well, you see one of the driver's jobs right here. You want to be as close to that yellow line as possible. Get the least amount of distance around the racetrack. You see that left front splitter right on top of that yellow line. So Corey Heim's doing his job so far as a driver. You just want to go through all the processes, get off pit road, be as close to the yellow line as possible, as little input as possible
I'm glad
in
you
the
said,
corners.
I'm glad you said that, Kevin, and I think he got a little bit too close and actually hit the apron a little bit. Saw sparks out of the left front, so that could slow that down a little. You want to be close, but don't get too close.
Heim's Toyota, first car on the clock tonight. 49-138.
Yeah, when you talk about those sparks, Clint, you want to be close to that yellow line. I don't think he's on the apron. I think it's just the car just being a little bit low, and they're going to touch the ground tonight a little bit here and there. You just don't want that to be too heavy. If it hits the ground too hard, scrub speed off, hurt your time.
All right, remember, 49-13 right there on Corey Heim, and this car right here is another one. This is a heavy hitter.
Justin Allgaier from Riverton, Illinois, 2024 champion of what is now the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, was the Xfinity Series of NASCAR. 3 Daytona 500 starts last year for Junior Motorsports when he raced his way in.
You can really see from the in-car camera watching his head bobble around like a bobblehead. These cars are tied down. They tie them as maxed down with the shocks and the suspension to keep that splitter in the car as low as possible all the way around the racetrack. Very rigid for the drivers.
And to be honest, it doesn't look as rigid as some of them that we will probably see tonight. But talking to Dale Jr. before this qualifying session, he felt pretty happy with about the speed in their car and felt like they were a little bit better than last year, but we're about to find out.
Allgaier 49.2.
That's quite a bit of difference.
Not quite a tenth off of Corey Heim. And remember, only 2 of the 8 drivers not locked into the field are going to make it tonight. Now, Eric Jones is one of the 36 chartered teams. That means they are guaranteed a starting spot in every Cup Series race. Racing out of Byron, Michigan for Legacy Motor Club with a new crew chief this year, Justin Alexander. This will be Eric's 10th Daytona 500. He started 4th here last year.
Yeah, and I look at Eric Jones's age and I see 29 years old. And I look at that, I think about that, and I'm like, man, it seems like he has been here for so long.
But he has. They started him young now.
You see the right front of that car really have a lot more movement than you're going to see a wide variety of that tonight. Some guys are going to be super aggressive, and that car is going to bounce. Some of them will bounce a little more on the right front. Some of them will bounce the whole front end, but got to get everything that you can.
$49.33 for Eric Jones. Here's Regan Smith.
Well, Mike, a number of drivers are making their 10th, 11th, 12th attempt at the Daytona 500. But Connor Zilic, you are making your first. What are the nerves like as you go out to qualify?
There's not much nerves for me today. I think Sunday will be a different story. But yeah, it's so cool to be, racing in the Great American Race with Red Bull and Trackhouse and Chevrolet. Everyone who's given me this opportunity. So excited for tonight, but more excited for tomorrow and Sunday and getting racing and starting to figure these things out. It's going to be a lot, but yeah, really cool weekend for me.
All right, good luck tonight. Thanks.
Set a win record last year in the Xfinity Series. He's going to be one to watch. Here's Ty Dillon from Welcome, North Carolina. Andrew Dickinson, the crew chief for Colleague Racing. And it'll be Ty's 10th Daytona 500. Last year, he started 7th.
Ty's always, I felt like they had a better year last year. They had some great runs throughout the season, but everybody's excited about coming to the Daytona 500 and qualifying. You think you got your cars better, but Ty they did a good job last year.
He's an aggressive race car driver too, and you need aggression on a track like Daytona.
49.49 for Ty Dillon puts him 4th of 4. Here's Jamie Little.
Well, Mike Craftsman Truck Series champion and 12-time winner last year, Corey Heim, attempting to qualify for his first Daytona 500. The first one out. What was that moment like for you here at Daytona?
Yeah, it was a surreal feeling, just being able to look back when I was a kid, just so excited to wake up Sunday morning and watch the Daytona 500, and now being here as a 23-year-old, 18 years later, attempting my first one. It's a special feeling. I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't nervous by any means, but looking pretty good so far, so we'll see. Just so grateful to be at 2311 Toyota. Those guys are so supportive of me, and even if we don't make it on speed, I'm confident that we can work together to help me get in on the race through the duels. So we'll see. We'll sort it out.
Thanks, Corey.
Corey Heim is fastest so far. In fact, it's the fastest qualifying lap for the Daytona 500 in the history of NASCAR's 7th generation race car. And you see Heim and Allgaier in yellow on our scoring pylon. That will denote the 8 drivers who are trying to time into the race. Cole Custer with crew chief Aaron Kramer for the Haas factory team. And a switch from Ford to Chevrolet for this team.
Kevin, I've seen enough of the Heim time. That car's, I'm going to go ahead and call my shot. I think he's locked in.
Yeah, that's really good speed, as you see Cole Custer put himself right there at a 49.32. So that's almost 2/10 off of that pole speed.
So here is Ryan Preece for Roush Fenway Kozlowski Racing and crew chief Derek Finley. Neither snow nor sleet nor whatever else could deny Ryan Preece at the Madhouse. Quarter-mile specialist growing up in the modifieds in New England. and he put all of that experience to good use in winning the Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray on a sleet and snowy Wednesday night.
Well, he's had a good week. He won in his modified, I think it was last night or the night before, over at New Smyrna. So he's had a strong start to the season so far.
Well, he got a little bit of comeuppance first because he hopped in his modified at New Smyrna, thought he'd do really well, and he did. But for a 14-year-old named Paulie Hartwig, who beat him to the checkered flag. Wow, 14 in a tour type modified. My gosh.
See, Ryan's car is a little bit smoother right there than a lot of them, and that results in a lot of speed.
Yeah, top of the board, 49.08 for Ryan Priest. That's 183.3 miles per hour.
Okay, now that takes my brain right to 99 of Corey LaJoie. I like what I see out of my teammate's race car right there. I've got to lock myself in, keep an eye on the 99, one of his teammates coming up. That's a race go or go home car.
Casey Mears from Bakersfield, California, trying to run his start total in NASCAR's National Series to 500, including this Daytona 500. Jason Miller on the box for this Ford. One of the 8 cars trying to time their way into the 500 or race their way into Moronite. We want to welcome in those of you that were watching the Iowa-Maryland college basketball game. Welcome to Daytona, where we are setting the front row for the Daytona 500 and determine 2 of the 8 cars trying to race their way into the 500 based on their qualifying speed tonight.
Yeah, and the one thing that I notice about this car is the back of the car is bouncing a little more than all the cars that we've seen so far.
50-23, Mears struggled to find speed in practice. A little off here. They'll have a chance to race their way in on Thursday. The 8 cars that will be shown in yellow are those trying to time in, and only 2 will do it. Todd Gilliland, 3rd generation NASCAR star from Sherrills Ford, North Carolina, west of Mooresville. Chris Larson, the crew chief for Front Row Motorsports. This will be his 5th Daytona 500.
Go back to Mears for just a second. That's what I love about the duels, Kevin. You take a car that's a second off the pace on time, and if he puts that thing in the right situation at the right time at the end of that race, he could draft his way into there. That's unique from these restrictor plate, drafting style tracks like Daytona, Talladega versus a 1.5 miles.
Well, for sure gives you an opportunity, but this car right here is very intriguing to me. This car has not made a lap of practice today. They chose to make their first laps on the racetrack for this qualifying run, and for me, from a driver's standpoint, you see him kind of go down and go back up. Those are the types of things that you just don't get to get smooth with from a driver's standpoint because you don't know how the car is going to bounce around. But we'll see if that results in some speed in that decision that they made.
Well, I just look for the why in those decisions, and that's what I can't get my head wrapped around is why you would elect to not go out and see what those travels are. There's definitely a reason. Method to the madness.
Gilliland and Michael McDowell were the 2 cars that did not practice. 49-45, 6th of 8 right now. Daniel Suarez with a new look and a new team for 2026 for the Monterrey, Mexico driver. Ryan Sparks, the crew chief, as Suarez moves over to Spire Motorsports. This will be his 9th Daytona 500.
And always interesting when you switch teams, and because of the processes and everything that might be a little bit different. The brake pedal might feel different. He got to work through that at the Clash last week, but there's a lot that changes from that little bull ring that we raced on last week compared to what you do here. But this car is really riding rough, Clint.
Yeah, it was. It looked like it kind of bottomed out getting into 3 as well.
And from sitting inside the car, once that car starts porpoising and bouncing off the ground, from a driver's standpoint, it is really uncomfortable inside of that race car.
Looks like riding a pogo stick.
Doesn't look like it has any suspension on it.
And that splitter will start hitting the ground, and it won't stop. And once it starts touching the ground, and then the suspension gets confused on everything that's happening, and you can't control that splitter to stay at a constant height.
And it shows on the stopwatch, 49.55 for Daniel Suarez. Next driver up would be Jimmy Johnson. He's the subject of tonight's Toyota driver profile. 7-time NASCAR Cup Series champ and Hall of Famer. 2 Daytona 500 Harley Earl trophies among his 83 Cup career wins.
And we heard Jimmy talk about why he came to Daytona. Obviously, it's a big race, but he feels like in this car, not racing all the time, it gives him the best opportunity to be competitive and do the things that he needs to do inside the race car by not being in there every week, and being able to get that last 10th or 10th and a half out of the car on all the other racetracks is a little different.
And I think he proved that last year, right? Finishing third.
So NASCAR has a provisional starting spot available to an A-list racer from many disciplines. Last year, Indy star Elio Castroneves took advantage of it, but you must apply for it before the race and lock it in before we come to Daytona. Jimmy Johnson did just that. That's why, even though they are not a chartered team, he does not have to time his way into the field. He knows he'll be in the Daytona 500, so for purpose of qualifying, we'll treat him just like one of the chartered teams.
Right there with his teammate Eric Jones.
Johnson is 6th.
Yeah, you see him immediately reach his hand up there, flipping all the switches and things that they had planned to turn on during qualifying. So a lot of processes for the drivers to make sure that they do inside the race cars.
Regan?
Well, Mike, one of the cars that does have to qualify in, Justin Allgaier, already made your lap, trying to make your second 500 start for Junior Motorsports, and Junior Motorsports' the second 500 start. What do we do now for about the next 15 cars or so until we know one way or another? You're good right now, though.
Yeah, we're good right now. We wait, though. But just really proud of this team. Everybody at Junior Motorsports. You know, obviously, Chris Stapleton and Traveler Whiskey coming back on board. All the folks at Brandt. You know, this race, I mean, we've talked about it, but, you know, the importance of qualifying and just how much this race means. And, you know, this team's done a great job. It's hard to be disappointed sitting third right now, but you know, knowing that Corey is in the same boat we are and being second to him, you know, there's not a lot of room to look at that. So, you know, we got the duels tomorrow night. If qualifying doesn't go the way we want it to, and you know, we raced our way in last year. So all the faith in the world in this team and this group, and just really proud of what we've assembled, and we're going to go do everything we can to get in the 500.
I think that's the key. Mike raced his way in last year in exciting fashion.
All right, Noah Gragson from Las Vegas with a new crew chief, Grant Hutchins, on the number 4 for Front Row Motorsports. This will be the 5th Daytona 500 for Gragson, and he is 9th right now at 49.50. AJ Allmendinger, and note especially the car number on AJ's car. AJ's from Los Gatos, California. Trent Owens, the crew chief for Colleague Racing. And not only is he carrying the same number that Greg Biffle carried, the 19 victories in the Cup Series for Roush Racing, but it's in the same number style, what we call a font for those numbers. All the RFK cars will carry that same number font as the number 16 here. I think there's 1 or 2 others as well, paying tribute to great racer and even greater humanitarian. We'll have more on Greg Biffle in our pre-race show Sunday. But here's the dinger. He's going to start his 13th 500 on Sunday.
Yeah, and you haven't seen him blink yet, and that just goes to show you just the concentration from those drivers as he dips off into turn 3 right here to just make sure he's as subtle as possible with everything that he's doing inside that car. They all talk about how it's easy for them, but I mean, there are just so many little things that you got to pay attention to and always got to be on your toes.
And that's not a comfortable ride right there, and a hard car to drive when it's that rigid.
AJ Allmendinger is 7th at 49.46. Now qualifying will continue on FS1 after the commercial break. 12 of 45 drivers have already been on the clock.
Yeah, it was right off the bat. I heard it chipped the same way, Kevin.
Yeah, you see right there now, those sparks from dragging the apron, that is really, that splitter is really stiff on the front of these cars. And when you touch the apron like that, it actually wants to pull the car to the left. So in the driver's seat, you actually have to turn the car back to the right because of that splitter wanting to drag the car so hard to the left.
Corey Heim, the fastest Toyota, at 49.13. 31 degrees of banking in the corners. 17 here in the tri-oval at start finish. And Riley Herbst is 7th, 49.45.
Yeah, we're going to go back and look at this lap by Riley Herbst as he comes through the tri-oval right here, and that yellow line is right on the banking. And you see those sparks right there, and that'll catch you off guard. Jamie?
Well, Ryan Preece is watching those sparks. He went around fastest so far. What a great week it's been. You guys mentioned he won last week at the Clash, and you won a modified race down here last night. How about making it 3 for 3 tonight? What do you think?
Yeah, they usually say things come in threes. So, no, I mean, this Viva Towels Kroger Ford Mustang's really solid. And, you know, Derek and the boys are definitely riding high off that momentum last week. And I'm definitely a believer in momentum. So we'll see if we can put her on the pole tonight or at least make it to the next round and try and have some good pit selection.
Good to see you.
Top 10 advanced to round 2. Here is Chandler Smith from Talking Rock, Georgia for Front Row Motorsports. Seth Barber, the crew chief. He is one of 3 drivers in the field that have never run a Daytona 500. Corey Heim and Connor Zilic are the other 2.
Yeah, and you can see our tracker down here keeping track of the distance from the top of the board. This is one of those cars that needs to qualify in on time to beat Corey Heim and Justin Allgaier. Not going to do it.
75. He's going to race Thursday. Now, breaking news on Noah Gragson. His time has been disallowed due to the new, what some people are calling Joey Logano rule, where you cannot use your hand to deflect air coming past the driver's side window.
Yeah, and what they used to do is they would put their hand up to fill the hole between the window net and the side window. That's been a very clear rule from NASCAR, and they don't want the drivers taking their hands off the steering wheel. So time disallowed there.
Carson Hocevar from Portage, Michigan for Spire Motorsports and Luke Lambert and Chevrolet. This will be his 3rd Daytona 500.
We saw Hocevar there at New Smyrna as well. Carson races a lot, and whether it's in super late models, he'll go race anything, anywhere. Going to race a lot of truck races this year, and I think that's great for these young guys to be able to get as much track time as possible. In today's world, you just don't have a lot of time on the racetrack to practice. So the more reps you can get, the better you're going to be.
Helped me, helped you. I know it did. And look at Kyle Busch. Just keep going down the list. The more you race, the better you are.
Noah Gragson walking back to the garage after his qualifying lap was disallowed. Now have a look at this shot. Look at the A pillar is right there. It's the windshield post. Look at that area.
Yeah, you can see it right there behind us, right at the roll bar, definitely.
How'd that song go? It was a 50s song. Keep your eyes on the road, keep your hands on the wheel.
Well,
I don't even remember it, and I'm old.
Well, you got to know the rules. And
right.
You got.
And he's a Bob Parker's.
Yeah.
That's how I knew the rules.
Well, you got to know the rules from a driver's standpoint going into what you're supposed to be doing. And, you know, sometimes from a driver's standpoint, you got to make sure you understand everything. And that's just an error on the driver's part. We talk so much about what they're responsible for. And, you know, Noah just didn't do it right.
Kyle Busch, 20 career starts in the Daytona 500, 21 this Sunday. Now driving for Richard Childress Racing. This will be his 4th try for the 500 with RCR, and his first with crew chief Jim Pullman. To your point, yesterday Kyle ran a Legends car down on the quarter mile at Auburndale, Florida in the Masters division and won.
What a lap.
48.93, 183.9 miles per hour.
How about your RCR? Welcome to the show. Get you some.
They came to play.
Well, we know how much Richard Childress loves speedway racing, and it is a major focus to be able to come to these racetracks and give yourself an opportunity to win. It's been that way as long as I ever drove there. When Dale Earnhardt was there, these super speedways are super important to Richard.
Well done, but remember, this is only round one. It's 2 rounds of qualifying. Connor Zilic from Mooresville, North Carolina. Started out in go-karts, quickly moved to the Mazda MX-5 series, cleaned house in the Trans Am series, and, oh yeah, everything else he drove. All the way to NASCAR's Saturday series, and now he is a full-time Cup regular for Trackhouse Racing. Randall Burnett, the crew chief. It'll be his first Daytona 500. He has 3 previous Cup starts. Finished at 11th at Atlanta last June. Broke Sam Ard's records in what was the Xfinity Series last year. Finished 2nd overall by just seconds in the 24 Hours of Daytona here.
You know, obviously we're going to be watching him each and every week, and I think he's going to be ready to step up to the plate. But where I'm really looking forward to it is these road courses. We watched SVG dominant fashion last year. I don't think that's going to happen when this kid's on the racetrack with him.
Zilic is 5th fastest, putting 3 Chevrolets in the top 5 with Priest's Ford and Himes Toyota. Zane Smith on track for Front Row Motorsports, and Ryan Burgundy. Jamie?
Well, I just found Noah Gregson. He had no idea his time was disallowed, and you said, oh my gosh. What are those thoughts now? You have to race from the back and try to improve your position at this point tomorrow night.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that rule, so that one's on me. So luckily we have the duels, and I feel like for the Daytona 500, it's such a long race. You could kind of start wherever. So it is what it is, but yeah, I feel like an idiot for that. Put my hand up, but oh well, we got a race tomorrow to do. I'm done for that.
We'll see. Well, Mike, I'm hearing crew chiefs all warning their drivers. Noah got in trouble. Don't put your hand out.
Thanks, Jamie. Zane Smith, 5th fastest, 49.26. He is the 2nd fastest Ford, and will run his 4th Daytona 500 on Sunday.
Well, one thing that I see at the top of the board right now, and right there, as you pull the manufacturers up, you've got a Chevy, a Ford, and a Toyota as the first 3 cars. Those are all things that we didn't know from practice because the times were so mixed up. But this is when it's all out there. You know exactly what you have as far as speed in your car after this qualifying session.
Well, I know we don't really, so far, to your point, you don't really have a dominant manufacturer like we've seen in the years past.
So here's John Hunter Nemechek for Legacy Motor Club and crew chief Travis Mack. This will be his 4th Daytona 500 and his 2nd with Mack atop the pit box. Our car on track is compared with the Ghost car, which will be the 10th place car, because the top 10 move on to round 2.
And this team had massive improvement at the end of the year. They had some really bright spots from their performance side of their cars. So it'll be interesting to see. Didn't really have that at the Clash, didn't have a lot of speed, kind of struggled at the Clash. But right now they've got pretty good speed in this 42 car.
Would you believe the driver with the best average finish in the Daytona 500 in this field is John Hunter Nemechek?
You would have stumped me on that one, Mike.
7.67 in 3 starts, ranks 2nd among drivers with more than 2 starts in history. Fred Lorenzen's a little bit better. You gotta love BJ McLeod. This fella, he does it his way, and he's the man in black. He's the Johnny Cash of the NASCAR circuit. Runs an occasional race now that they have sold the charter for their Live Fast Motorsports a couple of years ago. Runs when he wants to, and runs his best. Great guy, great businessman, and he's a racer.
Yeah, I agree. Overachieves, right? Yep. Does a lot with a little, and always has. Every time he's been at the racetrack, no matter what, whether it's a Daytona 500 any given weekend, he's always overachieving in his car.
And he's just a likable guy.
Yeah.
You know, everybody in the garage roots for BJ and everything that he does. And you have to root for him because he's just a racer. He loves being here. He loves being at the racetrack. He loves competing. And here he is trying to make another Daytona 500.
That hood's open, folks. Not too late.
Now he has to time in or race in to make the 500. If he does, it will be his 6th start in the Great American Race. All right, 50.01. We'll see you tomorrow night in the duel. Let's check in with our crew chief, Larry McReynolds.
Well, Mike, you guys been talking about two drivers did not make a practice lap. I'm with Travis Peterson, crew chief for Michael McDowell. Travis, we've been in here 15 hours, and you still yet to cut a lap. What was the decision made not to do practice?
Mostly because it's hard enough to get your car just right to get all the way through tech, and when you go on track, it always makes that harder. So, I have a lot of trust in our people and processes that we won't have any issues with our car, and I think hopefully that'll be an advantage for us. I guess we'll find out. I was hoping for a little bit more speed out of the teammate cars, but there is a Chevy out front right now, so we're hoping we can go match that. Or you work all off season for this pole, and it means a lot. So hopefully we can go get it done.
Well, Mike, they were on the pole at Talladega back in the fall, but that was with the old Camaro body.
Thanks, Larry. J.J. Yaley, veteran and Triple USAC champ and Cup veteran with 6 Daytona 500 starts. Jay Guy is turning the wrenches on this number 44 Chevrolet as Yaley tries to make his 7th Daytona 500 start.
Well, if you turned on the Chili Bowl, you heard J.J. Yaley's name. And, J.J. has just been in and out of Cup cars and different cars and trying to make it work. But, man, is he fun to watch in that midget.
Yaley 50-48 in a car that has struggled to find speed today. He's one of just 4 drivers entered this weekend to have raced in both the Daytona and Indianapolis 500s, both of which happen to be on Fox now. We're pretty proud of that. Hayek Motorsports crew chief Mike Kelly, driver Ricky Stenhouse Jr. from Olive Branch, Mississippi. 14 Daytona 500s for Stenhouse, with a pole in 2020 and a win in 2023. He likes this place a lot.
Well, if he's somewhere in sight, or if he's in the field, he's got a shot. Somehow, some way, Ricky always finds his way to the front of the pack and in contention as we get towards the end of a lot of these races. And there's just some guys that have a knack for these super speedway races to position themselves, take the chances, good at pushing, and all the things that it takes to keep your car in contention, and Ricky is one of those guys. Always good to see new brands on the side of race cars with Chef Boyardee. Have you eaten any raviolis out of a can, Clint?
Oh, what kind of question's that? Heck yeah.
Who hasn't?
Stenhouse 17th, 49-52. All right, there are 2 open drivers left to take time. And one of them is Anthony Alfredo from Richfield, Connecticut. The 26-year-old drives for Beard Motorsports, that little team from Michigan. Darren Shaw, the crew chief, for the longest time, the team's only full-time employee. It's the little team that can, and Alfredo is trying to make his 3rd Daytona 500. He's going to be full-time on Saturday in the O'Reilly Series this year.
Beard Motorsports, obviously great in the ARCA Series for so long. We've seen them attempt with their cars several times, and want to come down here and just make the race. Making this race can change the path of a team's season, right? You win the Daytona 500, it makes your year. You're a Daytona 500 champion. But for a team like this, just making the Daytona 500 would be such an accomplishment.
I like the attitude of this car. Not a lot of wasted motion, not a lot of bounce going down that back straightaway, and he's keeping it close to that line. Heim and Allgaier, the 2 drivers right now with the fastest speed among the 8 that have to lock in. And Anthony Alfredo, 15th at a 49.48, has just ensured Corey Heim of racing in Sunday's Daytona 500. With just 1 driver left to go, Corey Heim locks it on time. Fastest cat in the alley in round 1 so far, Kyle Busch.
Tomorrow on FS1, the Craftsman Truck Series takes to the high banks of Daytona with practice on FS1. And at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, the field will be set for the Daytona 500 on FS1.
We are halfway through pole position qualifying for the Daytona 500 with the 10 fastest cars moving on to the final round. Michael McDowell hopes to be one of them. Travis Peterson, the crew chief, Spire Motorsports. McDowell started outside pole here 2 years ago in a Ford. and won the 500 in 2021. And we're about to see if this, what we think is kind of odd strategy, since only 2 teams did it, of not practicing, pays off right here.
Well, Travis Peterson swings for the fence, Mike. And I know Larry McReynolds loves Travis's style, his crew chief. So it's a gamble for sure, but you got to love a crew chief that is that adamant about what he thinks is right and does it. Doesn't get talked out of it, follows through with his plan. And half the battle when you come down here is not diverting from your plan. Execute the things that you want to do. Have a plan when you get here of the things you want to try to get through inspection, what you want to do on the racetrack, and that's what they're doing. Now, would that have been my choice? No. I would have, from a driver's standpoint, rather made some laps and made sure everything is right.
Larry, we used to have zero-weight qualifying oil. We used to have 2-lap wheel bearing grease. Could any of that kind of stuff be in play in a car like this today?
Yeah, Mike, they're under the impound procedure. In other words, they went through inspection today. They qualify, they're impounded, they're going to race the same setup. As we talked about today during practice, the toolbox of things you change is very limited between qualifying and race trim. It's a block-off plate that goes in the radiator ductwork. You're going to put sticker tires on, adjust the air pressure. You're going to take rounds out, let it ride down on those stops. There's just not a lot you can do today. Yeah, we used to change everything, but the roof number after qualifying before the race.
Okay. Thanks, Larry. Michael McDowell is 7th. Well, now we're going to find out who the fastest of these open cars are, because Corey LaJoie, he's driving for RFK, Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. He is in their 4th car, entered just for the Daytona 500, and LaJoie trying to time his way into his 10th 500.
I look at his teammate, Ryan Preece, and if I was Corey LaJoie, I said it earlier, when I saw him pop up to the top of the board, keep an eye out on this car that's go or go home. You know that the emphasis, they know going into this race, this is the car that we need to have speed in, and I bet you it happens.
LaJoie finished top 5 here 2 years ago in the 500. Brad Keselowski said they added a 4th car because strength in numbers. Not as many Fords as Chevrolets, and they needed one more good one. Now, if he breaks into the top 10, that's going to change everything. Woo! LaJoie, 5th fastest, 49.20.
Thing happening with lawsuits and all the things off the racetrack. Probably a lot of scenarios with this team, but you know, this team needs to get to victory lane, needs to win multiple times, and Tyler Reddick and these guys can do that. So, you know, this is a year that they need to perform and get back to victory lane.
21st for Reddick, 49.60.
And from a driver's standpoint, when you're sitting there, you're waiting for that crew chief to give you that lap time on the radio. And when you know what your teammates have run and you know what that speed is, and you hear that time and you hear it's multiple tenths slower than what he ran, you're like, what the heck? That can be a little bit frustrating from a teammate standpoint, but you just never know here.
Let's check with Regan.
Well, Mike Chase Briscoe led the field to the 2025 edition of the Daytona 500. Seeing some pretty quick lap times right now, so what are the odds of you doing that 2 years in a row and getting it again this season?
I don't know. We're about to find out. You know, I thought in practice our fast first shot tracker Toyota wasn't bad. Last year was certainly a surprise, I think, for all of us, really, in the Toyota camp. So, yeah, I think we've made a lot of improvements on our super speedway stuff. And, yeah, I mean, we were on the front row at Talladega, our last super speedway race, so I feel like we'll be in the mix, but you never know until we get going here. So, yeah, hopefully we can. It was pretty special last year, just leading the field to green, and, yeah, we'll see if we can do it again.
All right, good luck in moment.
Austin Dillon from Welcome, North Carolina for Richard Childress Racing. Richard Boswell, the crew chief, on the number 3. And Dillon's right up there with his teammate Kyle Busch at 49.18. That's 182.9 miles per hour.
There, about that P4 right now. See where that shakes out.
The 2018 winner and 2014 pole sitter for the Great American Race.
That lap by Kyle Busch, that's a really, really strong lap after you see his teammate go, and that's really my point about the details. When you look at one car compared to the other, And just that little bit of time compared to those teammates' cars can be, you know, what is that, 2.5 tenths compared to his teammate. Larry?
Yeah, guys, I'm down here with Richard Childers. Richard, I know from working with you, the reason we come down here is to go to Victory Lane over there on Sunday, but looks like y'all packed some heat here for qualifying with the RCR cars.
Yeah, we're pretty good. The guys really worked hard this year. You've been in the winter circle with us, so you know what it's like. I think I'm really proud of what the guys did this winter. They've really worked hard.
Yeah. You know, Kevin and Clint, y'all drove for him. You know, he always pays attention, but he always paid a little more attention getting ready to come to Daytona.
Well, he paid a lot of attention to that water heater under the hood, too, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
He made sure that those engine guys were on point, and they answered the call. Things are
Josh Berry driving for Miles Stanley, and the Wood brothers will make his 3rd start in the 500 on Sunday. He's 13th fastest right now in the Wood brothers Ford. And Chase Elliott driving for Hendrick Motorsports with Alan Gustafson, the crew chief for his entire career, which includes 10 Daytona 500s and 2 poles, his first 2 tries, 2016 and 17.
Well, this is going to start the, you know, some of the group of cars from Hendrick Motorsports that we believe will have a shot at this front row, and their history down here in qualifying has always been so strong. Now, I would tell you that sometimes this car and Chase and his bunch always put a little more drivability in their car, which knocks a little bit of speed out of it, but right now he's definitely got a little more speed than Connor Zilic on our bubble.
Chase Elliott breaks into the top 10, 4th fastest. 49.17. Moves Michael McDowell onto the bubble to move on to round 2. And here's the defending champion of the Daytona 500, 2 years running. William Byron for Hendrick Motorsports and Rudy Fugle trying to get a three-peat. It's never been done at Daytona, not the 500.
Yeah, and you hear so many people talk about, you know, how much luck is involved in this, and we talked about Stenhouse earlier, how he always puts himself in position. You can call one a fluke, but 2 in a row, you can't call that a fluke. So, you know, this 24 bunch and Hendrick Motorsports being in victory lane 2 years in a row at our sport's biggest race, and I just believe this is a year for William Byron. I think every year that they go through together as a group, they learn a little bit here and there. We saw him be in contention all the way to the end of the year last year, and they're constantly learning and putting themselves in a better position, just getting that experience.
He's such a patient race car driver, and I think that fits the mold to the Daytona 500-mile race, getting that thing to the end of it, all the attrition, and being in the right place at the wrong time or at the right time. He's just patient and methodical with everything he does.
Misses the top 10 by 2 1/1000ths of a second.
The biggest miss on this whole scenario, Mike, with William Byron is that Clint never said a word about the flames on the side of his car.
Not once.
Can you believe that?
Nope. There's Brad Kozlowski and Kane. Brad broke his femur on a skiing trip, not while skiing, he emphasized, but slipped getting out of the vehicle and broke his femur right up near the hip. Underwent surgery. He's been rehabbing ever since, and he's ready to go. Shane Van Gisbergen putting a number on his car that has a great history for him in his native New Zealand and Australia. His dad's number was 97. He won a lot of races down at Australia Touring Cars with the number 97, so he was 88 last year. Still with Trackhouse Racing, Stephen Duran, the crew chief, but 97's the new number.
Yeah, and I talked to Shane a little bit today, and in practice, they were one of the good cars, one of the cars that had the car hitting the ground in practice and was able to get those heights right. So they took advantage of the practice session. But hearing Shane talk about the significance of the number on the side of that car and the pride he takes in the history that number has in his family was pretty cool to hear him talk about.
Well, it's something that's pretty rare in NASCAR, too. You kind of take the number that you have. You don't usually have a choice. Him having that choice and being able to do that's cool.
23rd for Van Gisbergen. Now, yesterday in Times Square, New York City, of course, Ross Chastain helped set the Guinness World Record for the world's loudest billboard. It's NASCAR's next-gen engine revving to 133.7 decibels. Had to have the melon drop. Part of NASCAR's Hell Yeah campaign. Record-setting event, signature watermelon smash, and here he is.
That's awesome, Kevin. That's the kind of stuff we need to be doing. I think I want one from a living room. Have your buddies over and fire the old V8 up.
Well, this is an awesome sport. We have loud cars, fast cars, cool drivers. We got a Busch Light on the side of this car. It was a longtime sponsor of mine. But to be able to just do what we do and promote our sport for what it is, I'm so proud of the things that NASCAR is doing to just show how neat this sport really is.
Now, Chastain has a new crew chief, Phil Surgeon, coming off the road for Trackhouse Racing in a supervisory role. Brandon McSwain, who worked with Chastain very early in their careers, is the new crew chief as Chastain will start his 8th Daytona 500 on Sunday. And let's check with Jamie.
Well, Mike, you talked about Brad Keselowski and what happened to him breaking that femur 8 weeks ago. Brad, first day out here at the track, how is the pain and how are you dealing with this? These aren't the easiest things to climb in and out of.
You know, it's better to be at home. You know, there was a long period of time where I didn't think it was going to happen where I was going to get to run it. So now that I'm here, I'm just, you know, thrilled to be here, Jamie. But there's work to do. And I think our Castrol Ford is pretty fast. I don't know if we can get in the top 10, but it's going to be really close, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we can run.
Good to see you out here.
Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah, Brad had an injury back in 2011 where he broke his ankle and went out to Pocono and won the race. So he's driven hurt before. That's a big injury that he's had to recover from, and glad to see Brad back in the car. And there's nothing makes you feel better than being at the racetrack in the race car.
Have a look at Cody Ware here, driving for the family team, Rick Ware Racing. Billy Port, the crew chief. It'll be his 6th Daytona 500. And he was right up against the bubble. He was green light for a while there, going into turn number 3. This was a Ford team last year. Now they're a Chevrolet team, and I think they have an alliance with Richard Childress.
Yeah, and he was way high.
He was.
Coming off at turn 4, like that car was bottoming out and shot him up the racetrack.
And it sure lost a lot of time because of it.
15th for Cody Ware, 49.35.
And in the middle of turns 3 and 4 down there, there's one bump in the middle of the corner. And if that splitter starts hitting the ground, it gets the car unsettled. And as you go to turn off of turn 4, there's a lot of little bumps, and that thing will go up the racetrack if it's too low.
Here is Chris Buescher from Prosper, Texas. Scott Graves, the crew chief at Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. 10 Daytona 500s for Buescher, 6 of them for Roush Fenway, where he's earned a 4th place starting spot and a 3rd and a 4th place finish in the 500.
Well, right back to Clint's point, you see how fast his teammate Ryan Preece is right up there, and this tracker is following right along with the pace that Ryan Preece had in his Ford as well.
Still 3 different makes in the top 3 spots, and still 3 open drivers in the top 10 to advance to the final round.
Chris has been just one of those steady drivers that takes care of his car, keeps himself in contention all day, kind of a grinder, puts himself up towards the front of the pack, and we expect them to be good.
Tomorrow on FS1, the NASCAR Cup Series goes full throttle, wheel to wheel for the duel at Daytona. Pre-race at 6 Eastern, green flag at 7 to set the field for the Great American Race on FS1. Larry McReynolds.
Yeah, Mike, I'm here with Jeff Gordon with Hendrick Motorsports. Jeff, normally you guys are pretty gritty on qualifying. You've had a couple that's qualified, still 2 to go with Larson and Bowman. You told me maybe not tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we knew Busch was strong in practice, and he backed that up. The 19 was pretty good. When we looked at try to evaluate some single car runs, the 19 was pretty good, so curious to see what he runs. But, you know, Chase put up a nice lap there, and we got another round here, so hopefully he can stay in there, and we'll see what happens. But as you pointed out, we've done a lot better in results on Sunday or Monday or whenever we run this race when we don't always qualify on that front row. So we might take that too.
Well, we know they're greedy. The guy driving the 24 now going for 3 in a row.
How about that? There's a fellow who knows his way to victory lane here. One of NASCAR's all-time greats. Chase Briscoe is the defending pole winner of the Daytona 500. He did it last year with crew chief James Small and Joe Gibbs Racing. This will be his 6th Daytona 500. Had 3 wins last year, including Talladega in October. Was absolutely a contender for the Cup Championship right down to the final lap of the season.
Yeah, this team just matured so well as they went through the year. And I think James Small and Chase Briscoe working together. Chase, when I was his teammate, he's like, man, I got to have a crew chief that just tells me when I'm wrong and is very direct with me. And James Small has no problem being direct. And I just think that this team will get stronger and stronger.
All right, watch the watch, boys. This is going to be a hot lap. He was fastest in practice among the single car runs. And Briscoe is second at 49.03. That's 183.6 miles per hour. Kyle Busch, and was that Garrett Mitchell? Cletus McFarland saying hello. He's here to run the ARCA race this week.
You forget how tall he is because Kyle Busch is tall, and he's looking down on him.
He's also going to run the truck race on FS1 on Friday night.
As tall as he is, that's crammed in there pretty tight in the truck, isn't it?
It's going to, yeah. The calves are really short, so his knees will be up in his chin.
Ty Gibbs will be in his 4th Daytona 500 for Joe Gibbs Racing. And Tyler Allen will be his crew chief for the 2nd year in a row. Finished 16th here last year. Finished top 10 in 2 of his last 3 races at Daytona.
Yeah, and just drastic improvement out of this team at the second half of the year last year. A lot of speed in practice, in contention to win the race at Bristol, at the Clash this year, ended the first 100 laps of the race as the leader and wound up getting mixed up there at the end. But looking for big things out of this 54 car this year.
And he bumps into the top 10, 7th fastest, 49.18. That will bump John Hunter Nemechek and move Corey LaJoie onto the bubble. And the conundrum of which car's time into the 500 would be resolved if LaJoie gets bumped out of the top 10. And Ryan Blaney might be just the man to do it. 11 Daytona 500 starts, best start of 3rd, best finish of 2nd twice for the 2023 Cup champion, racing for Jonathan Hassler at Team Penske.
One of 3 cars that I picked coming into this weekend to get the job done here. He's ready. He's been close. He's knocked on the door. He's aggressive. He has a fast car. All the pieces of the puzzle are there. It's got to get him in the right slot.
And it's week in and week out. We talk about how good he is on the super speedways. We talk about how good they are on the long run pace. And really, from the Ford camp, has been the top dog from a speed standpoint. And it's on all types of racetracks. So 12 team is a contender no matter where we go.
Now, he was green light until the end of the back straightaway when it turned to red. Gaining back, but only hundredths of a second at a time. Looks like Blaney is not going to transfer to the second round. 13th at a 49.26.
You see him glance up right there, looking at the scoreboard. As a driver, you want to know immediately, and he looked up at that scoreboard to see if his number was on the top. Or at least that's what I used to do.
Here is your 2025 Cup champion, Kyle Larson, winning his 2nd title for Hendrick Motorsports and crew chief Cliff Daniels. This will be his 13th Daytona 500. The last time a reigning Cup champ went to victory lane here was Dale Jarrett in 2000.
It's a tough race to win. We've seen some of our sports greats, Mark Martin, Tony Stewart, not win this race. It is the race that the teams are the most prepared for throughout the whole garage all year. You've had all winter to work on your car. They all know that this is the most important race that you can win in NASCAR and put a maximum amount of effort in every year.
In 2017, he was leading the 500 on the final lap and ran out of fuel. But they've just gassed him up for 5 more years at Hendrick Motorsports. That contract extension was announced today.
5-year. It's a big one. Deserved. Definitely, not getting the result, that win that we're looking for at these drafting tracks. We know that, but he knocks on the door. And I'm telling you right now, I said there's 3 cars. He's one of them on my list.
Well, he is 4th right now. And with 8 drivers to go, he will likely be in the final round. And all handshakes for Justin Allgaier, because with Corey LaJoie bumped out of the top 10, that means the open drivers that will lock into the Daytona 500 tonight will not have to be decided in the final round. It's over. Corey Heim, Justin Allgaier will race on Sunday. And with that out of the way, here's Joey Logano. Winner of the Daytona 500 in 2015, his 3rd year with Team Penske. Pole winner here 1 year ago, or 2 years ago, with Paul Wolfe as crew chief. And his Team Penske Ford, always a contender, seems to always start this race in a single-digit position.
And he ends a lot of them in a single-digit position as
right.
well. And this is another one of those teams that is looking to... they ran okay last year, but I don't think it was up to the standards that they expect. And you wipe all that out. You start with a clean sheet of paper to come back to the Daytona 500. And this is just a team that has experience, a driver that has experience, and another car that we expect to get better this year with winning more races.
Logano times in 8th, 49.17. 6 top 6 finishes in the 500 in 17 starts, including 1 win. But will he make it to the final round? 7 cars to go. So a lot can change right here. Now, Allgaier has been bumped out of the top 10, but he is still locked into the race for Sunday as the 2nd fastest open car. So that's why they are now green on our scoring pylon for locked in. Christopher Bell for Adam Stevens and Joe Gibbs Racing. This will be his 7th Daytona 500 and his 6th with this pairing of Adam Stevens, the number 20, and JGR in Toyota.
Well, right now you see this trend of being in the green all the way until you get to turn 3. So we'll see if that holds true with Christopher Bell as he gets over to this end of the racetrack. But it seems like Clint noticed this. As you get to turn 3 and 3/4 of the way down the back straightaway, it seems like a lot of these cars are losing time to what Kyle Busch did. Or actually, we're comparing to 10th. I'll figure this out eventually.
Austin Dillon on the bubble, former Daytona 500 pole sitter, trying to hold on to a top 10 spot. That number coming down for Bell as he comes to the flag, but he's going to be 1 spot short by 100th of a second. Christopher Bell is 11th. Regan?
Oh, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Kelly Earnhardt Miller down here. A little bit less stressful for you two this year. What's it like knowing the car's locked in already?
It feels really good. I don't know about less stress, but it feels really good. We're super proud of Justin. I want to thank Traveler Whiskey for this opportunity, so couldn't be any better.
What's worse, driver or owner coming down to Daytona?
Oh, I don't know. This is a lot of fun either way, man. It's such a great sport. It's so much fun to be a part of it. It's awesome to be able to come down here and try to make your way in. It is stressful, but that's the best part about it.
Congratulations, guys. Thanks.
Thank you, Regan.
They are in the 500 Sunday as owners. 6 drivers to go. Here's Austin Cindric, who won his 2nd Daytona 500 in 2022. He's now started in 5 of them. And the last 4 Daytona 500s, he has started in the front 3 rows. With Team Penske, Brian Wilson, the crew chief. And let's see what this Ford can do.
Well, it's just mixed up at the top of the board in a super speedway qualifying session that I remember in a long time.
Sure
There's
is.
been a lot of times, we come down here and we talk about Hendrick and the laps that they've been able to run. But right now we see Chevy, Toyota, Ford, Chevy, Toyota, Ford.
But even within their own organizations, they're kind of spread out.
3 different makes in the first 3, 3 different makes in the second 3, 3 different makes in the third 3. And Cindric, 15th at 49.24. So he will not transfer to round 2. Austin Dillon hangs on to the bubble. He's probably the most nervous guy in town right this minute, hoping to get into that final round. And he's been in that 10th position now for a while. 5 cars to go. including Mobile, Alabama's Bubba Wallace. For Charles DeNike and 2311 Racing, this will be Bubba's 9th Daytona 500. He has the best start of 3rd last year.
Yeah, and his teammates are. Reddick is back there in 36, so a little bit concerned about the speed of this car.
You see it already. I agree with you. I mean, you look back, Reddick 36th, Herbst in 27th. Falling off the pace here.
And then you've got his other teammate up there, Corey Heim, in 5th. So,
but much like we just heard Larry talk about with Jeff Gordon, I mean, there's the method to that madness. If they don't qualify good and go fast by themselves, a lot of times they push well and draft good. So,
and the thing you got to remember, like all these body parts, when they come, they'll scan all the body parts. So there's some tolerance and variances in the body parts when they come in. So you got to make a choice. Do I want to put this on my speedway car, my short track car? And sometimes you want a little downforce to be able to push and shove like you need to.
Wallace has 2 runner-up finishes in the 500, but he's going to be disappointed here. 27, 49, 43. Speaking of disappointed, Kyle Busch has finished 2nd. Brad Keselowski has finished 3rd. Between them, 38 starts in the 500. You add Kyle Larson, that's 51 starts. 63, 74 starts among those 6 champions of the sport. 74 starts, and no Daytona 500 wins yet.
This is a hard race to win, as we talked about earlier, and some of our sports best do it. But the thing that I learned right there, Mike, is you're a lot better at math really quickly than our stat guys.
Brad Keselowski. Sorry, Bert. Sorry, Ernie. Brad's going to run his 17th 500, as we said. He has a best finish at 3rd. He has a best start of 3rd. And he already has one of his cars, Ryan Preece, in 3rd, and Chris Buescher in 6th, trying to make it into the final round and run for the pole. He has 7 wins on NASCAR's drafting tracks, and that leads all active drivers, but only one of them came at Daytona, the July race in 2016.
Well, we know he can get it done. And in his scenario right now, I think he had a lot of time to reflect of how much he wanted to be in this car with his injury and sitting at home for so long.
16th for Keselowski, 49.25. The difference from 10th to 20th is only a 1/10 of a second. That's how closely matched these cars are. So certainly it's no disgrace being below that yellow line, but you want to be above it and move on to the final round. And here is Alex Bowman. 3 cars to go. With Blake Harris and Hendrick Motorsports, he has 9 Daytona 500s, 3 poles, 6 front row starts, and 1 runner-up finish. For a lot of people, they come down here, you say, who's your pick for the pole? Well, it's got to be Alex Bowman, right? With the success he's had, he'd certainly be one of them.
But you can't ignore the stats and the things that they've been able to accomplish. The stats don't lie. There's something that you have to look at the trends and the things that happen. Even though they can't add, their stat book is still pretty good.
This is you picking him back up?
Yeah.
Yep.
I got to pick him back up off the floor.
Dust him off. Okay, here we go. Minus 3/100ths going into the corner. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and he didn't lose a lot of time going into turn 3. We see it pretty much stabilized as he goes through turns 3 and 4. So Alex kind of bucked that trend of the time being lost through that end of the racetrack.
And it's getting better as he comes to the line. Bowman is in, 4th fastest at 49.11, 183.2 miles per hour, and that will bump former 500 pole sitter Austin Dillon from the top 10. 2 cars to go. One car to go. Back to the stat boys for confirmation. All right, Denny Hamlin. 3-time champion of the Daytona 500 for Joe Gibbs Racing and Chris Gale, the crew chief. This will be his 21st Daytona 500.
And I like where this team is at. You know, I think that they had one of the best years that they've had with this 11 car. A lot of had a crew chief change with everything leading the 11 car, but I really think it shows. Oh, you see that car bottom out and go up the racetrack.
I heard it. Did you hear it?
Yeah, We haven't seen sparks like that out of the back of the race car, but it's a team that really had a lot of questions about last year that you don't have this year. I know Denny's had a lot going on with things off the racetrack with his family and his business, but this guy can block it out. No matter the amount of controversy or things happening in his life, when he's sitting right there, he can be the leader of that team. He's got great people around him, a great organization, and they just figure it out.
Keeps climbing, doesn't it?
Here we go. Denny Hamlin's going to move on to the final round, 4th place, 49-10 for Hamlin.
Good job. 4 will transfer.
So that will bump his teammate Ty Gibbs out of the top 10. The top 5, 2 Chevys, 2 Toyotas, and a Ford. The second 5, 2 Chevys, 2 Fords, and 1 Toyota. 10 drivers will run for the pole, and 2 will lock into the front row for the Daytona 500. That is coming up right here on FS1.
It definitely helps Chase Elliott.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no question that it helps Chase Elliott because of the fact that this is his style of racing. Like, they're grinders.
Mm-hmm.
They're able to take those 10ths and turn them into 5ths, and take a 20th and turn it into a 10th, and so you have to be a grinder in this system to win it.
That's Kevin talking about the new chase for the championship in NASCAR. Join him every Tuesday and Thursday for Kevin Harvick's Happy Hour. Here's Regan.
Oh, Mike, the fastest guy after round 1 of qualifying, Kyle Busch. Kyle, check one box. It was really quick in the first round. You got a 10th to spare right now to second place. Is it going to be enough to go do it again?
I would certainly hope so. You know, everybody's been working really hard this offseason with Jim Pullman coming on board and joining our Zone Chevrolet team. So really looking forward to qualifying. I mean, normally you don't look forward to qualifying, but hey, we're right there. We got one more run to make in order to sit on the pole. And I have 1 super speedway pole in my career, and it was here in Daytona. It was for the summer race, and so it'd be nice to score another one, especially for the Daytona 500.
All right, good luck in qualifying, or in the second round of qualifying. Thanks.
All right, 10 drivers are locked into the top 10 starting spots for the Daytona 500. But which position will they occupy? We're about to find out with final round qualifying next.
Press box, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, how do you tell the world that we lost Dale Earnhardt today?
I'm a rookie. I was 8. We were all there. I was one of the last people to talk to Dale Earnhardt the day he died.
You remember what life was like before that day, and you remember what life has been like after that day.
We've lost Dale Earnhardt.
You'll want to watch this tomorrow night after the duel at Daytona. It's a study in what we lost and what these 25 years have been like 25 years later, and that premieres on FS1 right after the duel at Daytona tomorrow night. Larry Mack?
Yeah, Mike, I'm here with Booty Barker, crew chief for Corey Heim. Booty, you're running a limited schedule with your young driver, 12 races. You come to Daytona, you have to make it on time or race your way in. Not only are you in the 500, you still got a shot at this pole. You're in round 2.
Woo! Yeah, it's great. Put a lot of work in, you know. 2311, appreciate Gibbs' help, appreciate TRD. Takes a lot of effort to lay a lap down here. You know all about it.
Yeah, I think the only concern, he was the first car to go out in that first round, and everything has really cooled down. That was a long time ago.
So, Larry, what are the pros and cons? We'll get to this after the break of going early in the first round versus going late in the first round and how that affects your chances now. Welcome back to Daytona. They're running for the Busch Light pole. 10 drivers will contend, and the front row will be locked in tonight. There they are. 3 different makes, 6 different teams are represented in the top 10, 2 from each manufacturer. We're getting ready for the final round. Welcome back to Daytona. Now, Larry Mack, interestingly, the first driver to take time made the top 10. The last driver to take time made the top 10. What are the pros and cons of each?
Mike, it's stuff like this for 18 years that made me follically challenged because it's such a fine line because, yeah, you've got Corey Heim and Ryan Preece that's in the top 10. They were in the top 6 cars to go out. But then to your point, Bowman and Hamlin, they're the last cars. So those that went out early, their water in their radiator is going to be cool. But you get Hamlin and Bowman, their running gear is going to be hot. The transaxle, the gearbox, all that, which I think is a good thing, but I don't know if they could get their water cool. I personally like drivers like Briscoe and Buscher that went about 10 cars ago because they still got heat in the running gear, but I think they were able with fans only to maybe get that water cool down.
Well, let's find out. Let's set the front row for the 68th Daytona 500. Joey Logano from Middletown, Connecticut. Paul Wolf, his longtime crew chief, since 2020 that is, at Team Penske. 17 career Daytona 500 starts. A pole 2 years ago. A win in 2015. Now, where will he start the Great American Race Sunday?
Well, he's got a shot, and that's all you want. You want to be able to have a shot in these last 10 cars. You never know how much your car is going to pick up. Obviously, you want to be in the position of Kyle Busch to know that your car is really fast and think that you've got the pole. And he was substantially faster than the second place car, but you never know what the pickup in these cars is going to be the second time they go on the racetrack.
Now, Logano was the 39th of 45 drivers to take time in round 1.
Clean this up for me, Kevin.
Yeah, this little graph right here is not broke, people. This is something that is, and Larry Mack can back me up on this, this is something that has been a Ford trend for a long time as to how those butterflies are set, and they believe that not being 100% wide open on these restrictor plate racetracks is faster. So you'll notice that this 90% right here is something that you'll see with all the Fords.
49.27 for Joey Logano, and that is a fall off of about 1/10 of a second.
Well, that is not what we expected.
No. Next up, Chase Elliott, who was 9th in the first round. 2 poles, 3 starts in the 500 in the first 3 rows.
Well, that fall off, going back to Logano and that fall off, he was one of those last cars that went out 39th. So I think that plays right into what Larry was telling us about.
Well, Chase Elliott was the 29th of 45 drivers to take time in round 1.
Yeah, and to finish up on this throttle percentage thing, you'll notice the Chevrolet down here, 100%. So these are the little tricks that the engine builders come up with, right? And you just hours and hours on the dyno just fiddling with things, and a lot of those things happen by accident. But that is definitely something that I noticed with the Fords as we went through the years.
And here's Chase Elliott. He went out about 10 cars before Logano, so that water temperature, I think Larry might be onto something here.
49.22 for Chase Elliott. Now that's a drop of about 0.5 of a second from what he ran in the first round. Maybe here's part of the reason why.
Just ever so slightly with that left front splitter dragging ground. And that's what I love about night racing, and tonight it's night qualifying. You get to see everything that happens with the car when the rotors are glowing on the short tracks, the sparks flying off the cars.
Chris Buescher started this race in the 2nd row, in the 3rd row, in the 5th row, and has a 3rd place finish in the 500. In fact, he has 3 top 5 finishes.
And all 9 of these 10 cars were really close as we finished that qualifying session. You see that right here with our ghost car of Chris Buescher and Chase Elliott right on top of each other, because these cars are all so evenly matched.
Yeah, when it gets down to this close and this tight, I mean, you're talking about, literally 2 feet right now That's when all these little crumbs behind the wheel come into play. A couple hundreds here or there, if you let it drift up the racetrack too hard, if you pull on that wheel really hard with your inputs, being smooth, those are the little crumbs that can make this difference.
And he is fastest. Chris Buescher's time falls off only 2/100ths of a second from round one.
Well, the other thing that is different is the launch. When you get the tires with just a little bit of heat in them compared to completely cold tires, the way that car grips up, getting that launch off of pit road just changes everything ever so slightly as you go through the gears, because you didn't have as much wheel spin, or some guys figured out that you could take off just a little bit harder, so those crumbs will add up.
Corey Heim trying for his first Daytona 500, and he could start it from the pole. Remember a young man named Loy Allen who did just that years ago?
Well, this is exactly what you're talking about. Corey Heim was, one of the first cars to go out on the racetrack, the very first car to go out on the racetrack. And so we talk about better to have your engine cool, better to have everything cool, but we've seen a lot of guys slow down that went out later in that qualifying session.
Well, you can add him to the list. I mean, if the trend is correct right here, he's going to do the same thing, slow down just a little.
$49,138 in round one for Corey Heim. Top of the board, 49.14. He comes within 1/100th of a second of his round one time. Hendrick Motorsports in the Daytona 500. 16 poles. No other organization in the race has more than 6. They've swept the front row 9 times, with Darrell Waltrip's win after sweeping in 1989. They've won the last 2 Daytona 500s without being on the front row. So how will things sort out tonight for Mr. H, Jeff Gordon and company?
Well, you see Kyle Larson on the racetrack. You see HendrickCars.com on the side of that racetrack, and there aren't too many people that I can think of that love racing more than Mr. Hendrick. And whether it's in the Cup Series, late models, Trans Am, and car collections, I don't know that there's anybody that I know that loves cars more than Rick.
I don't think it exists. I agree.
I think
no chance.
No chance.
Boy, he is right on top of Corey Heim here. Within 100th. That's what 100th of a second looks like on the racetrack. Is just that 2 feet right there. To the line, second for Larson by 1/100th of a second. And he comes within 3/100ths of his time in the first round.
Well, we always talk about the trends and the things that are happening, and you expect the cars to pick up, and everybody's already noticed that it looks like if you just go back out and back up what you did in the first round of qualifying, that's going to be a good lap.
Yes. Now, Alex Bowman was the next to last driver to take time in round one. Will he and Denny Hamlin have an advantage? 5 down, 5 to go. If there's an advantage, it's in microseconds.
Yeah, and you see him up the racetrack just a hair more than Corey Heim right there.
And look at the difference.
And that's purely just that distance, Clint, around the racetrack. And those are those little details that we've been talking about. And you see it right there, just being up the racetrack a little bit.
My gosh, it's close.
3 Daytona 500 poles for Bowman. 6 front row starts in the 500. Can he make it second? To do it, he's just going to have to edge just ahead of Corey Heim.
The car just didn't seem like it pointed off of both corners, like it was a little tight off of both corners.
Second for Bowman by 6/1000ths of a second.
Wow. And if I'm analyzing that when I get back into the trailer as to where that time was, it's literally from the car being too high up on the racetrack. I mean, it's not too high, but it's higher than the car that you're slower than, and that's where the time was lost, purely just in distance.
So here is Denny Hamlin, who was 4th in round one. He was the last car on the clock in round number 1, 49.106 in his Joe Gibbs Toyota in round 1. for the driver who swept just about everything last year except the last 3 laps of the championship race.
Well, he and his team did everything that they needed to do to bring speed to the racetrack, to put themselves in position to win that championship. But it just came down to that one small circumstance at the end of the race and wound up not getting it done.
Right now, it's a Toyota Chevy front row with a Ford and a Chevy left to go. Hamlin is Toyota's last shot here, and he's ahead of Corey Heim coming to the flag. Hamlin, the hammer, out of Virginia for Joe Gibbs, 49.100. Denny Hamlin is the first driver to run faster than he did in round 1.
Yeah, 0.06 of a second.
Yeah, it's just barely. Again, going back to your point, Kevin, just backing up, just being able to back up what you ran the first lap. I got my eye on this Kyle Busch, though. When I'm looking down this list and everybody's pretty close. That car is a lot faster.
Yeah, unless somebody picks up out of the blue. I mean, Kyle Busch was a 10th faster than second place. So if they all just run the same speed, he's going to be the top dog again.
Well, we're not done because the 3 drivers left, 1 from each make, were all faster than Hamlin in round 1. Ryan Preece from Berlin, Connecticut. The 35-year-old former modified champ will start his 7th Daytona 500 coming off the Clash win at Bowman Gray. 49.081 in round 1. If he can equal that, he'll go to the top of the board.
Well, it's been a great start to the year for Ryan and this team, and there is nothing better than momentum. And they've obviously brought a great car to the racetrack this weekend, again, with a lot of speed.
You know, almost a car length difference on the Ghost car there. Usually it's just been a bit of fender.
Preece Lightning, 49.061. That is 2 100ths faster than his round 1 time. And Preece was the 6th car to take time in the first round. So it's Ford, Toyota, Toyota Chevrolet, with 1 Toyota and 1 Chevy to go. That Toyota is last year's pole sitter for the 500. That would be Chase Briscoe, driving for James Small and Joe Gibbs Racing in the number 19. Started first, finished 4th last year. 49.03 in the first round. If he can back that up, he will be on top of the board. Only the top 2 positions are set tonight. Everybody else will have to find their starting spot in tomorrow night's dual races.
Well, and this qualifying session is lined up in the reverse order of the fastest 10 cars. And, you know, I think as we run, it's not stacking up a lot different than what it was.
Well, without something catastrophic here, Briscoe will be on the front row. Just depends on what slot that's going to be.
Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing looking for their 3rd pole in the 500. So is Joe Gibbs Racing. And Briscoe's on top at 49.02. He is 1.5 hundredths faster.
James
so that
Small
trend continues.
James Small and company definitely have this program figured out. Great job, back-to-back years.
One car to go. 20 years of trying. Where have I heard that before?
You.
All right, Kyle Busch, fastest in round 1. 20 Daytona 500s. Still looking for the checkered flag in the Great American Race. Richard Childress Racing trying for their 7th pole position. They currently are 2nd all-time with 6th. First lap for Kyle, 48.93.
Ooh, not the tint that we saw in that first time. It's going to be a drag race, folks, right down to the end.
He's never started the 500 on the front row. Could this be the year for Kyle Busch?
This would be a big shot in the arm for this race team, the organization.
And there's no better way to get your season directed on the right course than to come down here and do exactly what he looks like he's getting ready to do, and that's qualify on the pole for the Daytona 500.
It was all down that back straightaway, too. Tells me that baby's got some steam under the hood.
It's a rowdy night in Daytona Beach. Kyle Busch.
You want, baby?
Is a pole sitter for the Daytona 500.
Way to go, team. Good job. Good job.
49 seconds flat.
Good job, guys. Great job.
6/100ths off of his round one speed, but it was enough to be the best in Daytona on pole night. Kyle Busch, Chase Briscoe will lead them to green on Sunday. Jamie Little is with the pole sitter for the Daytona 500.
Yeah, how about that? His 21st attempt for the Daytona 500, and the first time, Kyle, you are the pole sitter for the Great American Race. How does that sound?
Sounds really good right now. You know, certainly here on Wednesday night and being able to qualify on my first pole for the Daytona 500, that's pretty special. I've had one other speedway pole in my career down here in Daytona for the summer race, but this feels good. Feels really good for RCR as a group. Everybody from ECR, thanks to Bob and his whole team there, especially thanks to Zone Nicotine Pouches for being on board with us. Maybe it was the Flames. I don't know. Maybe it was the Flames that brought us all the speed and the heat that we needed for tonight. But also Lucas Oil, obviously their fuel treatments and oil treatments and everything that we run in this race car to give us the speed that we need to be up front. So just a valiant effort by everybody here, and you know, it'd be really nice to be doing an interview like this about being #1 come Sunday night.
That's right, because Kyle Busch looking for his first Daytona 500 win as well, Mike.
He'll be one of 7 NASCAR Cup champions in the field for Sunday's Daytona 500. He'll share the front row with Chase Briscoe's Toyota, and Briscoe is on the front row for the 2nd year in a row. He was last year's pole sitter for Joe Gibbs. So Chevy, Ford, Toyota, 3 different makes in the top 3 spots. What did we learn?
Well, we learned that the field is as mixed up as I've ever seen it. Sometimes we come down here and it's Chevy Hendricks on the front row, or it's Ford stacked up at the top. Not this year, Clint.
Well, we've got the front row taken care of. We've got 2 of them locked in. I cannot wait for these duels tomorrow night and see who can race their way in and who's going to the house. It's my favorite.
So even though 10 drivers were in the final round, only the front row for the 500 is set. To get the whole rest of the Daytona 500 lineup, you're going to have to tune in tomorrow night for the duel at Daytona, 2 150-mile races that'll set the entire field.
Well, it's going to be exciting. And as we go through the drama of this week, it's all starting to unfold now, and Kyle Busch is on the pole to start with.
Congratulations, Kyle Busch, Richard Childress Racing, and Chevrolet, winners of the pole position for Sunday's Daytona 500.